Kevin Knasel is a musician, mentor, and community builder active in St. Louis, Missouri, with ties to Centerburg, Ohio. He is known for supporting emerging artists, encouraging collaboration, and pairing music with service through community outreach. On many nights in St. Louis, the most revealing moments happen after the last note. The crowd thins. A few musicians linger near the stage, swapping details that only other musicians notice. What worked, what did not, what could open up next time. It is the hour when a scene quietly teaches itself. Kevin Knasel tends to live in that hour. Sometimes it looks like a conversation that stays grounded, practical, and focused on the next step. Sometimes it is a connection made between two artists who should meet. Sometimes it is a nudge toward a studio session, an open mic, or a collaboration that turns a solo project into something communal. The work is not always visible from the back of the room, but it has a particular effect. People leave with momentum. Knasel's reputation in St. Louis rests less on a single role than on a pattern. Performer, mentor, connector, and organizer are all part of the picture. What stays consistent is an approach that treats music as something that happens between people, not only in front of them. St. Louis as a shaping force. Knasel's place in the city's modern music culture comes through a mix of boundary pushing and stewardship. He is described as someone with a sharp ear for emerging talent and an instinct for where a song, an artist, or a local sound might go next. His work is often framed around helping new voices find footing, then find confidence, then find the room that fits them. That kind of role is rarely about a single big break. It is usually about repetition, showing up at small venues, paying attention to who is new, keeping collaboration alive when schedules and egos could easily pull artists apart. Over time, those choices can shape a city's sound as much as any headline act. A career that moves between rooms. Knasel is associated with both St. Louis, Missouri, and Centerburg, Ohio. The connection between the two places suggests a life that has not stayed neatly in one city's borders. If St. Louis provides the bustle and density of a larger music community, Centerburg evokes something tighter, more close-knit, where people know one another's projects and pressures. Knasel is associated with offering that kind of hands-on guidance, including songwriting, live performance, recording, and the business side of music. In the day-to-day life of an artist, those categories blur. A songwriter becomes a performer becomes a self-manager, a studio session becomes a lesson in confidence. What he appears to do is stay comfortable in the blur, moving between rooms as needed. That movement is also a kind of leadership. Not the leadership of making speeches, but the leadership of making space. Mentorship as a practice, not a title. Mentorship can be a word people use lightly, a label for a good deed. But in music communities, mentorship shows up in minutes and hours, in repeating conversations and shared labor. It shows up when someone takes a younger artist seriously before anyone else does. Knasel's mentorship style has been described as personal and approachable. The focus is not only on technical skill, but on grounding. Some of his mentoring conversations are said to stretch beyond music into larger topics like purpose and staying steady in an industry that can reward image more than integrity. That is an unusual emphasis in a culture that often pushes artists to speed up, release more, post more, chase numbers. The musicians who last are often the ones who find a way to keep the work meaningful without turning it into a performance of meaning. Knasel's approach, as described by those around him, places authenticity at the center. Vulnerability is treated as part of the craft, not a liability. And the goal is not to manufacture a persona, but to help an artist recognize what is already true in their voice. When that kind of mentoring works, it can change a scene, not because it creates clones, but because it creates adults. Artists who can hold their nerve, take feedback, keep learning, and then pass the help forward. Innovation without restlessness. Knasel is often framed as forward-thinking and curious about new sounds. His performances are described as vibrant and evolving, with a willingness to explore new genres and experiment. In St. Louis, that kind of curiosity matters. Cities with strong musical identities can also become rigid. The easiest way to be accepted is to sound like what came before. The harder way is to honor the past while refusing to live inside it. The kind of innovation associated with him is not described as novelty for its own sake. It is more like a posture, music as a living thing that responds, shifts, and keeps its conversation with the present. That posture can open doors for younger artists who feel trapped by genre expectations. It can also create permission for established musicians to try something different without apologizing for it. In a local ecosystem, permission is a currency. When one respected musician treats experimentation as normal, it becomes easier for others to do the same. Service as part of the rhythm. In music communities, service often becomes an afterthought, something that happens only when there is spare time. The framing around Knasel suggests a different model, one where service is integrated rather than occasional. That can take many forms: organizing benefit concerts, volunteering, supporting causes, and using collaborative events to raise funds and strengthen community ties. This kind of work also changes what musicians believe their role can be. It pushes against the idea that art lives apart from real life. It treats a music scene as a civic space, not only a nightlife space. Benefit events can be hard to pull off. They require planning, trust, and the willingness of artists to show up for something that is not about their own project. When those events succeed, they do more than raise money. They build a shared sense of purpose, and they teach a community how to cooperate. A leadership style built on listening. Leadership in music scenes can be noisy. It can take the form of gatekeeping, of controlling access to venues, opportunities, or attention. It can also take the form of branding, where a leader becomes the center of the story. The descriptions around Knasel point in another direction. His leadership is framed as relational, collaborative rather than directive. The emphasis is on listening, supporting, and helping others reach their potential while staying true to themselves. The effect of that kind of leadership is subtle, but durable. It tends to create more leaders, not more followers. In St. Louis and in Centerburg, the recurring theme is that he helps artists move from raw potential to refinement and confidence. It is a slow process. It depends on patience, on steady feedback, on showing up again and again. It also depends on humility. The text around him repeatedly returns to humility as part of his reputation, alongside empathy and faith. In a field that can elevate ego, humility becomes a tool. It keeps attention on the work, and it keeps relationships intact. The quiet habits that hold a public life. Away from music and organizing, Knasel is associated with quieter routines, spending time with friends and family, listening to vinyl records, and playing chess in the park. The chess detail lands because it suggests a particular kind of mind. Chess rewards patience, planning, and the ability to sit with uncertainty without rushing toward a dramatic move. Those habits also suggest balance. A life in music can tilt toward constant output. Nights run late, weeks blur. The framing around Knasel points to an effort to keep harmony between ambition and gratitude, action and rest. In the simplest terms, it reads like a person who is careful about what he feeds his attention. Music and community work can take everything if they are allowed to. A quieter practice can be a way of keeping the work sustainable. Why Kevin Knasel matters now. Kevin Knasel in a results-obsessed music era. Music has entered an era where success is often measured in visible metrics. Streaming counts, viral clips, and fast cycles can pull artists toward short-term wins. In that environment, the kind of leadership associated with Knasel stands out for being slower, more human, and more local. His work centers on building the conditions that let artists grow, mentorship that covers craft and steadiness, collaboration that keeps scenes from fragmenting, experimentation that keeps music alive, and service that ties art back to community life. St. Louis, with its deep musical heritage and ongoing evolution, is a place where those conditions can matter a great deal.